delicious beverage. That's right. I just had a delicious beverage, and I'm listening to my man Lachlan Cross play the harmonica. That is our intro music, and I will never get sick of it. Welcome to the program. I am Dean. That, of course, is my man Lachlan Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton, wearing the Stay Angry Everybody shirt. It's nice.
This
For sale, I think, at the Locker Room merch store, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, you can buy this one at the Locker Room merch store. I will explain this shirt for you.
Please.
I put these up as a message to my concern about Canadian apathy.
Okay.
Right? I think that the only way we will ever affect change in this country is to get mad and to stay mad. I'm not kidding. You're laughing.
Yeah, I am, because it's ridiculous.
It's the only...
Well, it's the only path conservatives have to being successful is to convince everybody else they should be just as angry as they're being told.
Everybody. This is not. Why do you always have to make everything about politics?
Because we got Max Fawcett on. He's the lead columnist for National Observer. He's got a new podcast called Maxed Out. We're talking politics today, so it's a nice little lead-in. Your shirt's a nice little lead-in. There's my guy Max Fawcett.
Max will agree with me.
Maxed Out, National Observer, dismantling disinformation. It's an excellent podcast. How can you say he's going to disagree with you? He's not even on the show yet.
No, I'd said he's going to agree with me. Max is going to agree with me about staying angry.
Maybe he will. He doesn't. Max does not look like an angry guy, though, right? He looks like one of those guys you'd like.
Oh,
you'd want to hang out with and
bring him on. It's underneath. It's just bubbling.
Scotch or like a dirty coffee with in the morning, and discuss everything from the XL pipeline to climate change to when is a good time to get your kids on skates, that kind of stuff.
No, Max, it's bubbling under.
Let's find out. Please welcome to the program the host of Maxed Out, the podcast, which you should subscribe to now, lead columnist from the fastest growing digital news enterprise in this country, the National Observer. Please welcome Max Fawcett, ladies and gentlemen.
Love the round of applause. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
You were a moment away from snapping, right, Max?
I was much angrier as a younger man. You can see all this gray in my beard now. I think anger should be proportioned out on a sort of limited basis. I think if you're angry about everything all the time, you're not actually angry about anything at all, and it loses. It's like swearing.
You're just unwell.
If you swear, if you swear all the time, then the swear words don't have any impact. If you use them on sort of rare occasions, they have a lot more punch. And I think, to Dean's point earlier, I feel anger. If you marinate in anger all the time, it turns you sour. Feels like there's a lot of conservative-leaning people in this country who their whole identity is being mad, and it's just. I don't think it's good for them mentally. I don't think they're healthy. I don't think it's a good place to be. Be mad about the things you should be mad about.
You ever like? It's funny because everybody talks about how important anger is. Hold on. No. Let me finish because I started first. No, I started first. So that's how it goes. Whoever starts first gets to finish first, and then you don't get to get interrupted. It's a new rule.
Not going to forget. I'm not going to forget what I had to say.
Write it down. Okay, so here's what I would say about that. I know we're going to get into it today, you and me, huh? We're going to get into it today. But when it comes to anger, it's like that one emotion that I had to get on top of after I quit drinking. I'm like, I got to figure out this anger thing. I was a very angry young man. If you listen to my radio show for the previous 15 years of that iteration of traditional media radio, remember that? That was cute. Anyway, that was the one thing that people would say about me is he's so angry. He's so vitriolic. And it was funny because I'm like, oh, that's part of the show. And then I stopped doing radio. I'm like, I can't stay this angry in my 40s. Like, it's impossible because what happens is you become such an acerbic dick all the time. You're that guy in the neighborhood that you hated as a kid standing on your lawn with your fucking squirt gun going, stay off my lawn. It's like, I can't operate at 9 for the rest of my life, Max. That's my point.
Okay. Now, listen, I agree with you, Max. I don't think you should be angry all the time. You need to take breaks in the evenings, maybe. But the point I'm making is about apathy. Yeah. And I'm concerned about, we've talked about this before, and I brought this up, and people all agree with me on this one.
No, they don't.
If I went down to the States, took over a state and said, you know what, those guys up there in Canada, they know what they're doing. And then I actually copied the tax structure for any one of those states that we pay here in Canada. They'd burn the state down.
They would, but Americans have a very curious relationship with taxes. I'll give you a perfect example of this. There was a list that came out a little while ago of the happiest places in the world. And this is an organization that keeps track of data, and they do this list every year. And the countries that keep coming out on top are Finland, Sweden, Norway, Switzerland, New Zealand, and Canada. Now, we slipped a little bit over the last few years, and the goobers over at Ontario Proud made a big deal out of it, like it was some big dunk on the Trudeau government. Like, oh, Trudeau's making us less happy. And I was like, guys, have you looked at the countries that are above us? They're all socialist, right? Like, it's countries where people pay a lot more taxes, but they have a much richer social safety net. People care about each other. They have a strong sense of community. Those are the happiest places in the world. The United States is way down that list because people in America are not happy people. Probably because they're worried about getting their, shot when they go to the post office, or, they have
church,
or they have to pay, they have to pay $500,000 if they have appendicitis or something like that. Like it, I just, I'm all for being angry about the right things, but I think if you are angry all the time, you burn yourself out.
I won't disagree with you there.
I think you see that with people who watch things like Fox News. It literally hurts their brains. They are addicted to being angry. They are addicted to feeling that like nerve pulsing on the top of their forehead, and they're just not fun people to be around. So I think having a kid makes you a lot softer. I've certainly, ever since I had a kid, the little things don't bug me as much. I save my anger for things that are really worth it. But, to Locke's point about like people being apathetic. Yeah, we're really apathetic in this country. You look at the Ontario election, last year, most people didn't vote. They just were like, yeah, fuck it. We're not gonna bother to cast a ballot, and then they get what they get. But I would argue that that's a sign that people are doing pretty okay. You don't not vote when things are terrible or when you're in crisis. You don't vote when you look at the options and go, well, they're all basically the same, and my life isn't going to change, so I'm just going to stay home and watch sports or have a barbecue.
Apathy.
To me, apathy is bad, but it's not troubling. It is a sign that people are okay with the status quo.
Yeah,
but it also, hold on, it opens up a door.
Socialist country. Sorry, go ahead.
It opens up a door for our politicians to take advantage of us, because they know, and that's my issue with where we're at right now. I had a local politician on, and who since won't respond to any of my tweets for some reason.
Michael Cooper?
No.
Nosferatu Michael Cooper? That guy?
No.
Is that the guy? No.
And the local politician, because I said to him, I said, you guys got to start doing something about bringing the cost of living down in the city and helping us out. And because I get tagged with being anti this and anti that when I look at the problems I have with the priorities of spending. Like, that's my issue. Do I think we should have bike lanes and nice arts? Absolutely. It just seems that it becomes a priority above things that need to be done in the city, and they don't mow the lawns in the summer and they don't clear the streets properly. And I'm like, you got to figure that out. And then when you figure that out, maybe, hey, let's put a nice art piece up. Maybe some shiny balls on the side of the road.
Lachlan hates the Talus balls, by the way. Can't stand the Talus balls. We did a whole show on Monday about
made by two
Talus balls. Just so you know, Max.
Was he the one that got stuck inside them?
No, he wishes.
Right.
But I'm regretting not getting my co-host stuck in there. If I would have known there was a hole in the top, I would have tried to jam that little bastard through it. Look at all the press he got. Okay, so he literally said to me, he goes, well, taxes have to go up. And I went, what? And he was like, he was dead serious. He said it with a straight face on my radio show. He said, no, taxes have to go up every year. And I was like, no, they don't. You guys could control your freaking spending. and you could figure out a way to decrease the taxes. No, and that's how they think. And that's the problem I have, because when you start looking at municipal elections, you start looking at how many people vote. That's my issue with apathy. And I think we're going to continue. I think we need to change our Canadian flag. We need a picture of a man bent over grabbing his ankles. That literally needs to be our Canadian flag.
So you've been in Alberta way too long. It's like it's
I would be like this if I was in any other province.
Try being normal, you always go back to like taxes and money and this and that you have no concept of because they're not in your coffers. Sorry, Max, I didn't mean to interrupt. I knew Locke and I are going to get into it today, but
it's and it's fair. I'm down here in Calgary. I'm not going to say that I think we should pay more taxes because, nobody wants to pay more taxes. But I think we have to have an ongoing conversation about the value we get for the taxes we pay. And, to be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with what I'm getting as a parent of a young kid. Like, we have this daycare program now, which is saving thousands of dollars a month for a lot of people. We don't have to pay for our healthcare, or we pay through our taxes. Like, I think we have this instinct to focus on the things we're not getting or the spending we don't like, and we overlook the fact that there's all sorts of things that other people's tax dollars are spent on that we benefit from. And it's not a buffet, like you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound as a member of society. I certainly think that conservatives are welcome to run on a platform of lower taxes, less government. I think that's great. I think people should have a choice. They should be able to opt for what they prefer. I would just like it if conservatives would not be quite so dishonest about what we get for our taxes, right? And the way in which that money is spent. You can object to the spending, but don't try to get people angry all the time about just the existence of government, which sort of seems to be the modus operandi these days.
That I will agree with you on for sure.
Let me ask you something, because you're touching on something that is, feeds into one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is trust in journalism today. If anybody knows anything about mainstream journalism, one of the hottest conversations is about the dissemination of information. You said this in your podcast, which, by the way, maxed out, tremendous podcast. Max Fawcett from the National Observer, lead columnist. Excellent hair, by the way, in your picture. You had a great interview with Linda Wood Solomon. I'm sorry if I messed up her name. Linda, who is in charge of the National Observer, which was the Vancouver Observer at one point, and the goal was to take this national to compete in the world of influence, right? But it really is fan facing. It's not, there was no purpose to it other than informing people climate change. Having decent conversations for individuals who are capable of having great conversations. You step out of your silo and have those conversations on Maxed Out, which I really like. But I can't help but notice some of the stuff that we sit here and we marinate in, and it really touches on this tax conversation or this rage farming conversation or political institutions and media telling us what we should be angry about, right? Telling us that this your culture should be angry about this, depending on the magazine, depending on the nature of the newspaper, depending on the news report, or the people delivering it, whether it be Post Media, whether it be Quebecor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of the conversations that seems to be making its rounds, as we know, mainstream media in this country has become cultural. It's not about giving you information. It's about giving information to a certain group of people and having that group of people get activated by said information. That seems to be what media is by and large in North America today. I don't know what it's like elsewhere because I'm not in Turkey. I can imagine I'm not in different countries where they've got different rules, et cetera, et cetera. But this government funding thing is a real issue, and we'll get to PP in just a second and the flame that he sort of started to fan yesterday. But it's a good conversation because we live in a world where we get disseminated information, told we're supposed to get angry about taxes, told we're supposed to be angry about carbon pricing, told that we're supposed to be angry about all kinds of things, and we get angry as if someone has endeared our coffers to ourselves, as if the government has said or the opposing party has said, you should be angry because they're spending your money, they're taking your jobs. It's so fucking weird to me that we live in this time because it seeped in from the United States, and this was not how we did politics, and this is not how politics was married to media for a very long time. there was that separation. You could see op-eds getting into spaces that they shouldn't politically. But over the past 10 years, we've seen a complete flip-flop in what news is and whether or not that news can be trusted. And I would love your thoughts on that today, because I did a little research before we had you on, and it was kind of fascinating. Canadian respondents asked if they thought news media in Canada was independent from undue political and business influences most of the time. Those trust scores have bottomed out. 27% of Canadians think that they're getting news from an independent source that is free of undue political and business influences. 27%. And I was floored by that. And I want your opinion on it, because I think they've dug their own graves. And I know this is a big soliloquy into a question, but where do you think media is now? Like, where do you think we are now in terms of trusting media, knowing how funded media is by our government, and knowing that they've gone a long way to try and ruin our trust with social media?
Okay, there's a lot to digest there, but I
had to get it all out in one stroke.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I think
we should get you to answer it in 30 seconds max, and then go
5 seconds. Nail it.
I think media is in trouble. It is being attacked by people who are very aggressive, very I think reckless with the institutions that they are damaging and the value of those institutions. There was a really interesting poll from Ecos that came out recently that basically asked people their views on some familiar pieces of misinformation. So around like COVID, around vaccines, around climate changes caused by fossil fuels. There's a couple other ones, like facts, like just things that are factually true. And if you ask people who answered correctly on all those questions, and there were correct answers, they tended to vote Liberal or New Democrat. If you ask the people who voted wrong on all of them, so they thought, COVID was a hoax, vaccines don't work, climate change is not caused by fossil fuels, they overwhelmingly supported the Conservative Party and the PPC. So you have people who have a very clear vested interest in having people be dumb and people not understand the world that they live in and believe in things that are not true. And when that's the case, it's really hard for the media to defend itself from their attacks, because their attacks are not genuine. They're self-serving. They want to destroy the media. They're not in good faith criticizing the media. I think the mistakes that the media has made, in fairness, probably accepting government money was a mistake. My friends Jen Gerson and Matt Gurney at The Line have made that case for a long time. I'm starting to come around to it. Just simply because of the optics. I just think that it's way too easy to make an argument that, these people take money from the government, ergo they are biased and corrupt. Never mind the fact that Post Media, where both of those fine people used to be employed, and which cranks out anti-Trudeau columns by the minute, takes bags of money from the federal government. It gets huge amounts of subsidies. Doesn't seem to affect their coverage, but that part of it seems to escape a lot of people who criticize the CBC or criticize the Toronto Star or the National Observer. And it's just a tough argument to push back against. But if you're in the media, and especially if you're in sort of a legacy print operation, if your choice is take government money or go bankrupt, which one are you going to choose? It's not a very difficult choice at the end of the day. So you have businesses making good business decisions that, when you extend it out to the sort of media writ large, are probably bad decisions in terms of the media's trust and credibility. I've never believed that journalists should be, ruthlessly neutral. I don't think neutrality is the point. I think they should be transparent. I think they should say, this is what I believe. This is what I come to the table with. This is grew up. These are my formative experiences, and now I'm going to cover this story as honestly as I can. I think this idea that we have to sort of neutrally present both sides of an issue is part of what gets us into trouble, and it's also something that gets weaponized by bad faith actors. They use that against us to say, well, you're not telling our side of the story enough. You have to tell both sides, and you don't. You don't have to tell both sides of the story on the Earth is flat. We know the Earth isn't flat, right? And they go, I know, newsflash, breaking. But people weaponize that. They use the training and the instincts that journalists have against them. And I think that's been part of what has kind of damaged the credibility of the institution as a whole.
Can I just jump in here? I've been doing not a legitimate radio show for a long time, where we do news, but if you're getting your news from my show, God help us all. And I hear that all the time. Hey, yeah, you guys keep me up to date. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Bad idea.
Please don't. Please don't tell me that, because that's going to keep me up at night. And I never had a problem. I shouldn't say that. I had minor issues back in the day when I was, say, like, let's say I was in Prince George or Winnipeg, when I started to find my voice as a broadcaster, and I started to express my opinion and be comfortable with sharing who I am on the radio. And I continue to do that. And I think that there's very few people like that in our business in radio. If I can we'll take it out of the print. Max, you come from print. I come from entertainment, from terrestrial. And the one thing that I've been shocked about, and this is where, because when you say that I'm getting my opinions from a political party, I get my backup, because I actually think that my position is based on who I am and my values, and I don't think I'm influenced. But I know we all are influenced by what's being fed to us, whether it's from a political party or a platform that we're on a regular basis, social media wise, whatever the case might be, our surroundings, people we work with, the province we live in. I get all that can have an impact on how you think and how you process information. The thing that I think is different about where we're at, and I don't know how we pivot from this, is when Trump started running, I started to notice that I was getting put into a camp depending on what I said on my show, because I can upset both sides quite quickly and with great ease.
Yeah, but that's a gift. You've culminated that gift over years of doing radio.
That's true, but
yeah, you're good at it too, dude.
But I've never had the pushback, and I guess I've never stirred the pot as much as I have. And now I'm seeing it now with ads. And this is something that I find very interesting, is that now we're being held, these media outlets, we're running an ad right now for Rachel Notley and the NDP party on our radio station.
Does it make you sick? Does it make you sad?
No, I don't care, because it pays the bills.
Yeah.
And the thing is when Danielle Smith counters the ad and buys space on our radio station, which she probably will, because there's an election coming, if people didn't know, here in Alberta, we're going to get people mad that we're running a Danielle Smith. And today we had a guy text up, and I said, get me his number. And we called him up, and I had a quick conversation with Roy, and I said, Roy, they paid us. Can you wrap your head around how we would say no to the NDP party because Lachlan, the guy in the morning, doesn't agree with the politics? And I'm not saying I don't. I'm saying, how do you justify that? And he's like, I know. But we actually get, almost every time that ad runs, somebody will go, I'm never listening to your radio station again, you NDP loop. And I'm like, what is going on?
It is Alberta.
What happened that people don't realize that we live in a democracy where you're allowed to actually say and buy an advertisement for your political party, and it doesn't mean that everybody
without being labeled. Yeah.
You know what? I first noticed it. We were selling the My Pillow on our radio station. Trump starts running. That dillhole that runs that company started saying all these crazy things about Trump. And then all of a sudden, people are sending me 4-page emails telling me that I have my head up my ass because we're taking money to promote a My Pillow. And I'm like, the world is changing. The world has changed. I don't know if there's a question in there, Max, but I just wanted to get that. I don't know how we get back from that. And I think that's part of the issue more than with media and where we are right now, is that everybody wants to put you in a camp right away.
Yep. Everyone, I mean, everything is a team sport now in a way that it didn't used to be. Like, you define yourself by which radio stations you listen to and which newspapers you read, which websites you subscribe to, and it's all sort of part of your identity. And for a lot of people, a lot of it is underwritten by politics. And I think we've lost the art of, it's just sort of what my podcast is about, but we've lost the art of like listening to someone, disagreeing with them, and going, fair enough, right? As opposed to like, well, I'm going to cancel you, or I hate you, or you're human scum, and I never want to talk to you again. Like I look at the election here in Alberta, and like they're very different parties, they're very different people who are leading them. But if you look at their policies, like they're not insanely different, right? Like it's not like one party is advocating for a socialist economy and the other one's advocating for pure libertarianism. Like there's a lot of overlap between the two, and yet if you ask people, how different are they, people would say like, well, I would never vote for so and so, or if I knew someone who was voting for them, then whatever, like I wouldn't talk to them anymore. And it's just kind of think we need to like touch a little bit of grass on that and come back to a world where, if your neighbor votes differently than you, or you hear an ad on the radio station you don't like, just let it go. Like it's okay. It's okay to have a different view than somebody. You don't need to destroy them. You don't need to bankrupt them. Like this Bud Light stuff. I just cannot.
You don't like it? You don't like the inclusive advertising? Did you take a 2x4 to a case of Bud Light this week, sir?
Yes, I mean, I've never. In fairness, I've never put that garbage near my lips, so I don't get real animated one way or the other. But like,
that's Lachlan's beer, by the way. That's sacrilegious in Edmonton.
So I might buy more.
But this idea that we identify ourselves through like the beer that we drink, and it's part of a culture war. Like who gives a shit? Like just drink your beer. Don't worry about it. Or if you don't like it, drink another beer. You don't need to shoot it. You don't need to blow it up. Like just relax. Everyone is.
You know how angry people get when I tell them I drink Bud Light? Not before this.
Yeah.
Like beer nerds are the worst.
Yeah.
They're so bad. And it's like, why are you drinking that garbage? I actually really like it.
Yeah.
That's why.
Exactly.
What do you drink? I'll try it. Yeah, beer nerds are it's funny. I'm shocked by how much press this has got. And I also like how everybody has decided that Budweiser is now going to go bankrupt because of this.
Yeah.
By the way, they've gained market share, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've gained like 2% market share, all the inclusive people, because if you study advertising, you know anything about advertising, brand safety is a very big deal. And people found a ton of brand safety in an inclusive ad campaign. So now everybody's going to this woman who's a Harvard graduated PR person who runs Anheuser-Busch's PR. And they're like, how did you do it? What did you do? And they've attacked her to the point where they've gone to look at her Facebook back when she was in university in 2005, 2006.
I saw this. Yeah.
And they were peppering her, saying, look at your fratty behavior, because her big thing was Budweiser needs to move away from like fratty behavior, like frat house shit. And she was seen drinking out of a condom in one of her pictures in a dormitory doing fratty things, right? And it's like it is incessant because they won't stop coming after you.
They went after the woman who made the ad.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, they went after her Facebook account, her family. Like it doesn't end. It's a never-ending cycle of like abuse that we live in when one side says we need to go and attack. And listen, it's not native to right-wing people. It's also on the left.
The left does.
They're crazy.
The left does it just. I mean, I think
the left actually created it.
I think everyone would benefit from a 5-year statute of limitations on any of this stuff. Anything that happened more than 5 years ago, can't bring it up. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Nobody cares. Right?
Totally agree.
In part because I think about, and this is going way off track, but I think about kids who are in university.
Well, that's okay. Lachlan does it every day. You can do it today.
All right, excellent. Matter. I think about people who are in university or people who are young. Like they don't have the space to make mistakes anymore. And I don't mean mistakes like being sexually inappropriate Like that's not okay. But like just being silly, drinking too much, having bad opinions about things. Like you're supposed to be able to make mistakes when you're that age. That's the whole fucking point of going to university, is making mistakes, learning, growing, getting better. And if I was in university today, like you can't express a thought because maybe one day, 20 years in the future, someone's going to have a clip of that and they're going to use it to, who knows, you need to give people the space, and you need to give people the space to grow. Like if you want people to come over to your side, if you want to change people's minds, you have to be willing to let them change their minds and not waterboard them for the stuff they said before. If you do that, they're never going to change their minds. Why would they?
It's interesting
they'll
because
dig in and they'll go completely the other way. That's 100%. What I do. Like anytime someone says, like, and it's fascinating because you can see it on Twitter, right? Someone will send you a tweet, which, by the way, I want to ask you your theories on Twitter as of today, how much fun it is. And we'll get to that in a second. But when you see it on Twitter, and what you do is you see people that'll tell you that what you did was wrong and you should not be a part of anything. You should, and the left is by far the worst of this. Yep. It's like, dude, it's a purity circle and everybody's got a gun. And if you actually got behind the people in the purity circle that are holding the guns, and if you actually dug into their pasts, I bet you would find some of the most maldiferous shit on the planet, right? And it's all performative, everything, to the point where performance actually is art. Watching what Pierre Poilievre did yesterday to the CBC or 2 days ago floored me, and I want your opinion on it, and then we'll talk about Twitter a little bit. A couple days ago, as you know, NPR was tagged because Elon Musk, what he likes to do is exact his emotional instability out on people who actually tell the truth about him. And so NPR, one of those outlets, NPR was tagged as state funded, even though they're publicly funded, not state funded, because he's so fucking petty. It's unbelievable. And because of that, NPR has left Twitter. And we'll get to that in just a second. They basically put out a tweet.
So they don't get any government money, NPR?
1% of their funding comes from the U.S. government. 1%.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's fucking unbelievable. Now, Pierre Poilievre leaned into that. The king of the rage farming, the king of the perceptive ruse. He leans into that and puts this tweet out yesterday. And it's a letter, like a snail mail letter, that he sent to Twitter Incorporated, to Elon Musk, in light of what NPR did. This is a stunt, by the way, and I'll explain it in a second. I'm writing in respect to Twitter's practice of identifying certain accounts as government-funded media. Twitter's platform used guidelines to describe the practice as follows. Government-funded media is defined as outlets that the government provides some or all of the outlets' funding, may have a varying degree of government involvement in editorial content. Twitter's platform use guidelines refer to a source that describes the Canadian Broadcast Corporation as a publicly funded broadcaster. 2021-2022 annual report disclosed receives $1.24 billion, the vast majority of its funding from the Canadian government. As a result, in the interest of transparency, I believe that Twitter should apply the government-funded media label to CBC's various news-related accounts, including at CBC News, and at CBC Alerts. Your thoughts on the pettiness? Your thoughts on that performative note?
I mean, he took it another step higher today, where he was. I guess there was a press conference, and a Canadian press reporter asked him about this stuff, and he went on this diatribe about how CBC is the Canadian press's biggest client, and so she wouldn't dare criticize because they don't want to lose their biggest paying customer. And it's just like, as I said on Twitter, like, once a campus conservative, always a campus conservative. Like, it's just this snotty, juvenile, dickish kind of attitude about the CBC and about the work that it does. And he called it a liberal propaganda arm. I mean, I think the CBC probably has a bias towards Toronto, just because there's so many people who live in Toronto who work there. I think it has a bias towards a little bit more of a progressive worldview, because journalists tend to be more progressive by their very nature. They're poor, for one thing, so that tends to push them in that direction. And they're educated. But this idea that it is doing the work of the Liberal government is just not true. But it doesn't really matter, because he's not interested in truth. He's interested in a culture war, the same one that Donald Trump had, where the media was the enemy of the people. He's clearly going down that road. It remains to be seen whether enough Canadians will buy it to make it worth his while. But let's be clear about what Elon's up to here. This is about the Chinese government and the Russian government being very put out by Twitter, labeling them as state-owned and state-run media, and him trying to dilute that by putting the New York Times in there, by putting NPR in there, by putting Voice of America, the BBC. He's basically using these legitimate editorially independent news organizations to water down the label that was correctly put on things like RT and a bunch of other genuinely like state-controlled
CCP, Russian embassies, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Because at the end of the day, if you scratch Elon Musk, what you see is a person who is very heavily intertwined with the Chinese government. You know, Tesla depends very heavily on China for its growth.
Didn't they just announce a new gigafactory in China too? That
sure did.
Massive gigafactory, and didn't like that just happened last week, which is the timing's incredible, Max. Incredible.
It really is. I mean, look, if you were China and Russia and you wanted to do damage to the West, doing what he's doing to Twitter is just about the best value for money you could possibly get, because what he's doing for a very low price, relatively speaking, he is sowing mistrust in institutions. He is undermining faith in the media, and he is taking away a communications tool that has been used around the world, including in parts of Russia and China, to get the truth to people. And they don't like that. And neither do a lot of Elon's right-wing backers, and so I think people tried to look at this deal and assess it through the lens of like traditional corporate finance. Like, well, what does he get out of this? And to be honest, what he gets out of it is that he gets to commit vandalism on a very valuable piece of public infrastructure, and he's going to get away with it. And at the end of the day, $44 billion. I think for whatever reason that seems to be worth it for him. Maybe there's more than 44 billion in terms of Tesla's interest in China. Who knows? But Elon is not an idiot, and when he behaves like an idiot, I think you got to be a little suspicious of what's really going on there.
Don't you find the begging from Pierre? Don't you find the begging from Pierre Poilievre for foreign interference also quite interesting in that email?
I mean, he's snitch tagging basically. But he strikes me as the kind of guy who, as a kid, would ask the hall monitor to take care of his problems for him. So that's sort of what he's trying to do. And yeah, if he can get the CBC,
it's smart.
Well, but if he can get the CBC to either censor itself or to back down on Twitter or to get labeled by Twitter as whatever they're labeling it, that's good for him, because that's one less source of media that is independent, that is editorially pretty neutral, and will call balls and strikes. And then what we have left is Post Media, which very clearly does not call balls and strikes, and the various True North, the Rebel, all these groups that just basically pour right-wing propaganda down people's throats. I mean, he is working the refs, and the refs are very inclined to be worked.
The thing I find interesting about this,
hang on, let me put this one slide up.
PP.
Let me put one slide up real quick. Okay, Pierre Poilievre, 1.24 billion. I want to just throw a couple of numbers out there. Canadian media over the past 10 years has accepted and received over 1.4 billion in government subsidies, cash money.
It was COVID related.
Post Media.
So did cell phone companies.
Yeah, no.
So did companies across right across North America.
Back in 2011, this stuff started back in 2011. When
it's not a media thing, though.
Oh, it is 100% a media thing.
Newspapers were dying. That's why they were throwing money at newspapers because they were trying to keep them ahead.
Which is ridiculous. Which is ridiculous, because if an actuary or anybody that has the ability to look at how media worked in the face of that digital uprising, they'd be able to tell you, don't throw money at this. Like, everybody was saying the same thing at the same time. It's like, don't give these guys any money. They're crying poor and they're not. And that was the case. And that money keeps coming to the tune of 1.4 billion. And when a guy like Pierre Poilievre, Max Lachlan, gets upset and persnickety about the CBC being government funded, which he knew about and everybody has for the past, how old is the CBC, Max? 70 years, 80 years old? 80 years old? We've always known.
Yeah.
Older, independently run, but government funded for like 90 fucking years. 90 years. It's never been different. And the interesting part is he failed to mention everybody else's government funded, which Max brought up with the National Post. Post Media told shareholders back in 2001, 35 million in federal government handouts is now a key pillar of its business strategy. Post Media owns, and by the way, they've been enriched to the tune of about 400 million over the past 10 years, 400 million, because of the footprint that they have and how many properties they have. And don't think for a second that they didn't know that that was the deal when Stephen Harper decided to end the anti-foreign ownership of our media way back when, and said, hey, you guys need to buy all these because you're going to get the big footprint. We're going to influence everybody. It's now part of the IDU. They work very, very closely with people that are actually associated with the Conservative Party. It is a pure propaganda arm. And there are one or two people they keep around at Post Media, like Liz Braun, who's wonderful. I think she does a great job. But generally speaking, all of those people are agents on behalf of conservative backers, the Conservative Party. We see it all the time. And they are all, doesn't matter if it's the fucking Star, the Sun, or Post Media, they are all government funded to some extent. And as Max, you pointed out, I mean, that's the poison pill that allows every single person to say, what are you doing? But I find it the selective nature by which Pierre Poilievre is bringing this up. I find it incredible that these media outlets aren't actually defending themselves and other media outlets in the face of what he's doing.
They're trying to be quiet.
Because they're just as fucking guilty. Of course they are, because they want the money taps to stay on.
Max said it perfectly at the beginning. We backed ourselves into a corner when we tried to stay in line with traditional sort of ideas of what media was supposed to be. We didn't change. We didn't adapt to the landscape. And we also didn't figure out how to do this on our own. My anger for CBC has never been whether or not we should have it. I think we should have CBC. I watch CBC a lot. I trust the news information that comes out of CBC. I do. I do tend to think that they are a little liberal, but I've got the same opinion that you have, Max. It's the people that they have sitting behind the desk. That's how they're wired. If you listen to me, you're going to get me. And so why would I be upset about, you listen to Dean, you're getting a dose of Dean, right? You can't be upset about how the information is given to you based on what you should or shouldn't know about the person behind the desk. Now, the problem I have with the CBC is that it is a well-known fact that they have not woken up to the reality of the world that we live in financially. They have basically sidestepped consolidation. They never have figured out how to do business on their own. They rely on that money, and the money that they have coming in, they desperately don't want it to go down. So what do? They actually create situations for themselves so that money is still there. We had a guy, we talked about CBC one time, and I mentioned to Dean, I said, it was on this podcast, right? And he goes, yes. We got a note from a guy who was a contractor who once or twice a year gets a call in Toronto and gets called to CBC to do work in that building, that Toronto building.
Yeah.
And he has said more than a couple of times and admitted to us, he has told them this work doesn't need to be done. It can wait. And they go, no, you got to do it because it's got to be on the books by such and such a date. And he finally figured it out. He was like, oh, they're trying to make sure that they spend a certain amount of money every year so that they are viewed as needing it. And
so they don't lose the budget. Yeah.
So they don't lose their budgets. To me, that's bullshit. To me, that you still have a guy employed, and I hope this isn't true, but I heard it was, that goes into work every day and makes a six-figure salary to fucking like label vinyl records and keep track of the vinyl library. I mean, that is bullshit. We have an industry that has just been absolutely decimated. There's thousands of people in our business, and not just print, but I'm talking radio, television, that are unemployed because big business took it over, consolidated, and hatched it because they answer to shareholders now. They don't give a shit about their employees. And then you got a business that basically is running in the 1970s. On how they actually conduct their business.
An industry, yeah.
An industry. So that's my anger about CBC. It's based on what I know or what my perception is of how they run themselves and they pay themselves. And that's bullshit. I think, and when you have those kinds of stories out, whether or not you know all the sort of the ins and outs, the nitty gritty, PP is going to strike a chord with people about defund CBC. I'm actually for it, but I don't want it to go away. I just want them to take responsibility for themselves financially and actually live in the fucking current like climate that we all live in.
A couple of quick A couple of quick
That's
points.
all.
The first one is you're right about the way they budget and the way they spend money, and it's true of every government department, and it drives me crazy. And I've had conversations with people in government about, like, why do they budget this way? Why is it that, like, if you don't use your budget, you're assumed not to need it, and so you lose the money, and so that's why they buy like new computers every end of fiscal and all this. There's a lot of stuff like that, and I would just like people to get as outraged about the CBC's spending pattern that way as they do about the Department of National Defense, right? Because they do it too. Every government department behaves in this way, and it's something we need to fix at every level. Because you're right, it is wasteful and it's inefficient. The thing about the CBC that worries me is it feels like they kind of aren't prepared for what PP could bring for them. Like, there's a very good chance he'll win the next election, and he will not pull his punches. He will not back off from this issue. He will cut their funding. Make no mistake about it. And they should be getting ahead of that. They should be making an argument and showing the public, this is what we're doing with your money. This is why we're responsible stewards of your budget. We're doing all of these new things now to better serve you. Maybe they stop doing, like, I don't think they should be in the business of opinion. I think CBC doing opinion is an insanely bad idea. You're putting them in a space where you're pissing people off, and then they see the CBC tag on it and they go, well, fuck the CBC. They should pull back from that, and they should be doing just straight news, coverage in communities that don't get coverage, coverage of issues that don't get coverage, and then maybe making that news broadcast available for free somewhere. Like, it has to be reoriented more as a public service, and they need to get away from just trying to attract as many eyeballs as possible, because in the process of attracting eyeballs, they're getting a lot of people angry. And I don't think that's their job. I think their job is to get people informed. So the CBC,
but they don't want to open up they don't want to pull back the curtain, because they know that the abuse.
Well, yeah, but part of it,
they don't want everybody to see it.
Well, that abuse has been going on as long as the fucking government agencies existed, right? But more importantly, part of it is, and I think that it's kind of worth saying, and Max nailed it. Like, Max is one of those dudes who kind of, his opinion, even the more hardened conservative can look at and go, yeah, he nailed it. Max said this a while ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that the liberal government does a terrible job of is explaining anything to anybody.
The worst.
Like, fucking awful, right?
Yeah. They are the worst communicators I have ever seen in my life in politics. The absolute worst. It's why we're still having arguments about the carbon tax, for crying out loud. It was just all self-injury. And then on the other hand, conservatives are amazing at communicating, because they keep things simple. They keep it digestible. They stay on their message. They repeat it, and people kind of internalize it. Whereas the liberals, and God bless them for this, it's like either it's wonderfully naive or wonderfully incompetent, but they assume everyone's like has a background in economics, right?
Yeah.
And has taken like 3 stats classes at university. And I wish that was the world we lived in, where everyone had sort of a working knowledge of polls and data and markets, but we don't. And the failure to kind of keep things simple and make it understandable and show people, not tell them about how things work, is really coming back to bite them right now. Whether it's on the carbon tax, whether it's on, this China stuff, like, it's just all sort of snowballing because of this lack of ability to communicate things clearly.
Well, and when they do push out some sort of narrative, they do it with an air about them. Right. And that I think is just as damaging as their lack of ability to stay on task. And I even said it, I've said it more than a couple of times. I said, I'm concerned about PP winning because he's very good at hitting his talking points.
And not only can he communicate, but he communicates and literally does it with a purpose to upset people around him, to activate them, right? Like, it's emotional communication.
That's gonna wear on people, though, Dean.
It already has. Like, I read a great piece that Max put together a while ago, talking about how they're gonna run out of room. Like when you and it was about the per vote subsidy. When you have an ability to upset people, you actually don't need other people to help you generate income and money. And that's what the conservatives have traditionally needed. And they've said, fuck it, let's get a straight pipeline and just keep the angry money coming. And so that communication comes in that form, and it doesn't change, and it never will. But it is career limiting and doesn't last long, is my point. Real quick, before I let you go, Max.
For sale, by the way, talking about angry
merch
money.
Store. There you go.
Go to the locker
Stay
room
angry, everyone.
store and pays for my beer.
Now, Max, also a big Jays fan. Did you see them back into that win against the Tigers last night?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. You got to get the easy ones if you're going to get the hard ones.
Yeah, 8-4 on the season. The AL East is a bit of a barn burner. Everybody's good except the except the Red Sox. I think they're 5-8.
Red Sox are bad again this year, eh?
Yeah, I know.
The Rays won again today, so they're 13-0.
The Rays are 12-0. 13-0. Did they win this afternoon? Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Well, dude, listen, I watched yesterday's game. Yeah, they backed into it because they brought a guy in the 8th inning that couldn't throw strikes for 4 guys, but whatever. I took it. You know what I really love about this team? Have you seen their plate? Have you seen their plate discipline? Have you seen them take pitches this year? And are you watching maybe the best looking Blue Jay of all time, Kevin Keirmaier, light it up?
Yeah.
Where did he come from?
Tampa.
Is that that was that Tampa trade? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's the DH, the designated handsome guy.
Is he ever?
he's
too good looking.
Yeah. But no, this is it's a fun team. I feel like the kids are coming into their own. I love Dalton Varsho. Love any guy who's the son of a former major leaguer and then named after Darren Dalton. But they take good at bats. They hit for power. The new state, the fences are going to be hilarious. They're going to hit so many home runs. I think
358.
I think they're going to be a lot of trouble for the rest of the. I mean, the Rays aren't going to keep this up. The Yankees look kind of shaky. I think it's going to be fun. It feels to me like a little bit like 2015, but I think they're going to go out and add at the deadline. I think they're going to get something good, let's see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you this:
fun to watch.
Much like the Leafs, who are heading into the playoffs on Monday with everyone else, this is as real as the Blue Jays have felt in a long time, Max.
Yeah.
This is from top to bottom. They got 3 really good second basemen, with the exception of Biggio. You could send him to the moon anytime. But what I watched last night, what I've watched so far this year, the team is entertaining. They're fucking incredible 1 through 9. They can play outfield defense. They got rid of the 2 issues in the corners. They've got some pitching, although Barrios has struggled. Manoah's struggled. Kikuchi struggled in his last start. They're just as solid and as
they got good closing pitching,
as I've
right?
ever seen. Yeah, their bullpen is actually fucking tremendous.
Well, they got that kid down in AA who's going to come up and probably midseason and do some good things. Tiedemann, yeah. So,
yeah.
No, I mean it feels like those early '90s teams in a way, where the pitching was good, but it was never amazing. But they just beat the shit out of the other teams 1 through 9, and they Todd Stottlemyre their way to the World Series. So maybe they'll do the same with Barrios and Kikuchi.
One of the best face-first slides I've ever seen was when Stottlemyre went into second base. Remember that?
Yeah, that was back when pitchers really couldn't run the bases.
Yeah, and they did it in leather jackets. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
he had his Blue Jays leather jacket on, and he was running the bases in a leather jacket. That was back in 1992. It was incredible. Anyway, Max, let you go. Appreciate you being here, dude. Right. National Observer, please go and subscribe to the National Observer. They're very, very good at disseminating information. They're actually good citizens who do great news in this country that you can actually count on. And Max is their lead columnist. Highly recommend you go download his podcast as well. It's called Maxed Out. You can get it anywhere you get your fine podcasts. National Observer, Dismantling Disinformation. He's got a couple of good ones. I'd highly encourage everybody to actually go and listen to the interview you did with your boss, Linda. It's excellent. And it's a great little kind of look-see into how government funding works in media in this country, what the purpose of it is, so you can kind of get to the bottom line of who's government funded and who isn't, what the purpose is of. All of these things that we discussed today, most of them are perceptive. But I appreciate you taking some time to kind of break it down with us, Max. Thanks so much.
Well, happy to do it and happy to come on again soon and just ask everyone, if you haven't already signed up for my new newsletter, because we always have to be plugging or pitching something.
Yes.
I have a newsletter now. It sends my columns to you every week. I throw some other stuff in there. So give that a shot if you're so inclined.
At Max Fawcett on Twitter. Yeah, great follow. At Max Fawcett on Twitter. In your bio, you can find your newsletter stuff as well.
Yep.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
Good to see you, Max.
Go Days.
Max Fawcett, lead columnist from the National Post. He's great, dude.
Yeah. He's
the
we need
Kevin
more
Keirmaier of this podcast.
Yeah. We need more minds like his in. And I've told you this before when we started bringing him on, because I've been doing this now with you like just over 2 years. I had questions about why things were the way they were, and there was 2 or 3 times where he's been on where he's said something and it's solidified an idea that I had, right? Like he filled in the gaps for me. And it's interesting because he's a progressive guy, obviously, right? And he doesn't hide that, but he is open to.
He can call balls and strikes.
Well, yeah, but he's open to open to exploring why somebody might have an alternative opinion. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he'll go,
and it's okay, right?
Yeah,
I find that you and I are kind of a microcosm sometimes. I think there's a tremendous amount of mutual respect for each other's opinions, right? So we don't push. But there's this nuclear option that sits out there for everybody that has a conversation. And that nuclear option is fuck you, right? What Max was saying and what he's really good at, which is where everybody should get to in a political conversation in this environment, is we don't have to be enemies when we disagree. We don't have to be sworn enemies. We don't have to take sides. We don't have to put the fucking war paint on. Someone can tell me how much they love Pierre Poilievre and how much they hate this woke country. I'll immediately discount everything you say after that, but that'll just be in my head. We should be able to communicate personally and go, oh, that's interesting. Well, have a good day, right? Well, something to think about. But we don't. We like to follow people around now. That's what Twitter and social media has given us. Let's follow these people around and let's convince them and pepper them until they either block us or we get a result out of them.
Yeah.
That's not where we live. It's not what I do. It's not what you do. And it's foreign to us. Most of it is AI. A lot of the comments that you get, whether on social media or in your comment section of people like, I can put out an innocuous tweet. Have a great morning, everybody. The sun's shining in Toronto today, 27 degrees. I will get 15 responses calling me a beta cuck. And that's easily managed by just block. And then you can start having normal conversations with people. But generally speaking, man, we don't live in a place like it's not. The reason why we're having a hard time understanding it is because it's a complete about face to what happens in real life. That's not real life. Social media is real life.
The thing is, we have to start
real life. It's a joke.
We have to start doing what Max is doing. And not a lot of us are doing it. I think I tend to do it more so than most people that I know. Okay, hold on. Why do you have that opinion? Okay, let's dig into that. Right? Because I've been put in a camp that I don't belong in based on things I've said out loud. Immediately. Like, you're an idiot. But I'm like, hold on.
You did have a fuck Trudeau sticker that went the entire length of your rear view window.
That was for comedy. It was a Subaru. I thought people would see that would be funny. It was one of those things you stick on the window.
Sure.
Decal. You lick it. Yeah.
I get it.
I could still see out of the window with it, though.
Oh, well, congratulations.
So not only was it funny, it was also effective.
Okay. You know what else is fun? Sorry, go ahead.
Like the point I'm trying to make about the CBC, listen, and the reason why
they are government funded.
The reason why PP doesn't do this is because he knows that he doesn't need to, because there's too much of this out there. Immediately saying you're for or against CBC immediately puts you in a camp. I actually don't want the CBC to go away. I find that their programming, I enjoy a lot of their programming. I'm mad at how they spend money, right? But if I say something anti-CBC, I'm automatically put into a camp. right? Whereas we were able to have a conversation with Max about that. I'm just using that as one example. And because Max is a good communicator, he has his belief structure, and he's actually open to having a conversation about difficult topics. He can negotiate something.
Like, that's the thing. Like, if you're an idiot, it's your identity. The politics that you talk about, that's your identity. If you're an idiot, Max isn't an idiot. You're not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. We're generally pretty bright people.
I'm not that
Max
smart.
I know that, but Max is smarter than us. It's a graduating scale. It goes you, maybe me a little bit, and then Max is.
I'll give you an edge.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. A little intellectual edge. That's awesome. I'll take it.
Not much though.
No. But like, dumb people don't understand, don't have the ability to reason. They can't reason past what it is that they think they want. And you've got politicians, you've got media telling everybody what to be angry about and what to want, right? So if you might want something that a liberal might want, you're a libtard. If you might want something that a conservative might want, you're a fascist, commie, dictator, asshole. So either way, no one wins. The key here is block your way to a better experience.
Can I bring up another point that Max brought up that that we skated past, and because I didn't want it to get too Berta.
Yes.
Because I knew today was more about talking about Alberta politics, even though I know Max would enjoy it.
We're not talking about Alberta politics. We talked about media.
No, hold on. I just
trust them.
He said something.
CBC thing.
He said something very interesting today, and I'll put a pin in it, but it adds to the conversation we were having about having this ability to see things, like filter them a little bit better, as opposed to just automatically just jumping to a conclusion. And I've said this on my radio show. I said, I'm surprised at the similarity between Danielle Smith and Rachel Notley. And I said, and he even said that. He said the two parties, and it must be driving the NDP crazy, the two parties have done a lot of things that each one would do. When we had the NDP in the last time, and now we have Danielle Smith. She has taken a bit from the NDP playbook, and she has incorporated it and how they spend money and how they're targeting certain demographics. And I've noticed it, and I've said it out loud, that it must be driving Rachel nuts. Like, how do you combat that when you probably would have done the exact same thing in her position? You can't say that to somebody outside looking in Ontario, say that has a very strong opinion one way or the other about Danielle Smith. And I'm concerned
She's the village idiot. Danielle Smith is legitimately the village idiot. But I will say this. I have zero respect for any elected. I don't care. Nothing will change. I have zero respect for anybody who says they identify according to their political identification process. Zero. That goes
I agree
for
with you.
The NDP. That goes for Rachel Notley. I don't get. And I'm so tired of talking about Alberta politics.
That's why I didn't want
federal politicians.
But it fit into the conversation about having an ability to look at things objectively, taking a step back, and not immediately getting angry because of the party, because of the identity.
Yeah. Like C11 and C18. Conservatives are railing against C11. I am railing against C11. I am railing against C18. Pierre Poilievre is railing against C18.
C11 actually scares the shit out of me.
It should, because it's the government wants to police your user-generated content, tweets, emails, everything, fucking everything. They want access to all your shit. And that's Trudeau, and he's a fucking coward for it. The entire Liberal caucus is a fucking bunch of cowards. They shut down debate. They don't want to have conversations. Like, you should be able to have that conversation without someone going, oh, you've just insulted Dark Brandon of the North. I'm like, no, I'm just calling balls and strikes that you can't trust this Liberal government.
That C11 thing is scary, and people.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But you also cannot trust conservatives because of their lack of character as well. We have a lack of character issue. They all use the same tactics, which is why you're like, Notley sounds a lot like fucking Danielle Smith. Well, of course they do, because the goal is the same. Let's fucking manipulate people for votes. That's it. That's all it is. Go back to it at the same time.
Notley's not good at. She's not good at boxing.
She looks better though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
She looks a little better.
She's also
really
funnier.
Turned up the heat. Is she funny? Funnier
she's quite sharp. But she doesn't deal with conflict well, and I see how they're fighting back, and it's like weak, and I'm like, oh no, they're gonna beat you. They're gonna beat you because you're not good in the mud.
No.
Anyway, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. You're trying to drag me back in there.
No, I'm not. You go back in there, dude. You know how many conversations you took and went completely the other direction today? It's unbelievable.
All of them?
Loved it. Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
like
hold
I
on.
had two stories I haven't gotten a chance to get to. And now you want to talk
one
about
more
C11.
thing on the C11 thing.
Okay.
Because we've brought it up here on this podcast. We've had the who's
Michael
the lawyer?
Geist.
We've had Geist on a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you know what? When we have a topic that reaches like the audience and it resonates and strikes a chord, I will get messages. I'll get notes. People will send me emails. They'll find me. They'll tune into our show and send us text messages. And you know what? No one until this week, not one person has ever reached out to me about C11. People don't get it. They don't understand what it is. And I've even stopped talking about it because I'm like, this really bothers me. And this is something that we should be bringing up on this podcast, on my show.
No one wants to talk about it.
No one wants to talk about it. I had a guy send me a note today and he goes, holy shit. Yeah. Have you looked into the C11 thing?
Well, and this is where I never liked Justin Trudeau and lost me when he called a pandemic election for a few extra seats because he's a cock. But Bill C11 and C18, and I'll do some real short strokes for you. Bill C11 is the Trudeau government saying, we would like the CRTC to now police the internet. And that includes your tweets, your TikToks, your Snapchats, everything. And they left the language in the bill ambiguous enough. And then they said, don't worry about it.
They can shut you down.
Don't worry. But they can literally, the goal is they want to literally be able to turn you off.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Bill C11. Bill C. Now the reason why Bill C11 exists, I'll get to C18 in a second. Let's double back. The reason it exists because of Rebel News and True North and Canada Proud, other fake, clearly fake, right wing. You can add Press Progress to this too, left wing, clearly fake left or right wing entities that are spreading disinformation that damages the fabric of Canadian security. That is what they will tell you, but that part is actually true. So there's a trigger in there that would enable them to shut everyone down. The goal is to shut people like Rebel News and True North down. They don't want to become litigious, right? The Liberal government doesn't want to sue them for lying, even though they should. They should take them to court for inciting riots and seditious behavior and taking dark money, which they both do. True North and Rebel and Western Standard, they all do. And they
don't know that for sure.
Oh, I know
that is just a speculation on our part.
True. It's 100%.
We should do the lawyer thing here, shouldn't we?
No, it's true. But go ahead. Sure. Allegedly, they take.
Allegedly, we have a very strong, suspicious feeling that they may be taking money
from different countries that shouldn't be bringing money to news organizations in Canada to curate shitty.
Because Dean's been offered that money.
Yes, that's how much I know these things. I've also been offered money from the same people to pivot and do dangerous content, and we've said no a few dozen times. No big deal. This is going to sound weird. Someone with Canada's top spy agency said, quote, and I'm not kidding, then he's abnormal. So you can all suck it because it's really important to me that we don't give that advantage away. Anyway, doesn't matter. Getting back to the original statement that I was trying to make is that we are inundated with terrible information and it is never going to end. And that is what Trudeau's trying to do with C11. He's trying to have that trigger so he can just turn off certain channels. Now, as much as I hate Rebel News, and I think they should be dormied, much like True North, because it is literally data mining.
And it is owned.
No, hang on. It is owned by the Conservative Party. No, dude, fucking shut it down. I could care less. Ezra Levin's not a martyr. He's a piece of shit.
No, everybody you make him one.
He's a piece of shit.
You make him one.
No, I'll take care of that. Don't worry. I got that covered. But the bottom line is this, is that bill wants to capture everybody and have the Canadian government have the ability to turn you off online. C18 is different. It's because Justin Trudeau doesn't want to sue him. C18 is different. C18 is a bill that forces forces big tech to give all the traditional media outlets in this country that qualify under some weird, nobody knows qualifications to get hundreds of millions of free dollars a year, so the government doesn't have to keep subsidizing them. They want to make big tech give them that money.
What that is that's also an information pipeline control thing. And this is the scary thing about it, because what's happening is the lobbyists, who has the most money now in our country and in most countries? It's the tech companies. The tech companies have bought up all of the media. Okay. So now the strongest lobbyists, the ones with the most money, power, and influence in Ottawa, are the ones that are saying, we got to stop letting Google and YouTube. And so when you have those conversations, it's easy to get people on your side, because they go, that's right. Why does that international company not pay any taxes here in Canada? Netflix, what's going on? We should make them make Canadian content. So it's easy to get a Canadian, somebody who's proud of being here, proud of what it is that we generate from a content perspective, to understand that message. But ultimately what it is these media companies are creating content in Canada, pushing it out there, and it's getting buried, and it costs them a certain amount of money. And they have to use these platforms like Google and YouTube and all of these media. The landscape's changed in order to get their message out there, and they have to pay people to do it. And Google then attaches an ad to it and makes money from it. So those companies in Canada that are generating that content are going, hold on, I am spending money to create this content, put it out there. Google, YouTube, all these massive companies are making money from it. Where's my piece?
Oh, it's not right. I didn't say it was right.
I'm saying it's easy to get people riled up in Canada about it. Right?
Because that's what the government's doing. Like, I had a problem with C11 and C18. I voiced my issue with it with a tweet from Michael Geist, Professor Geist, who is the definitive voice on this stuff in the world.
Yeah.
Who is very much against the process of shutting people out in the debate and these bills which capture user-generated content. So I tweet out, totally agree. Chris Biddle, a Liberal MP, he's like, you're doing the work of big tech. And then I went back and I started looking at all the other responses from Liberal MPs, and it was the same response that they would give anybody for having an issue with it. You're doing the work of big tech.
That's
you
because
want Facebook to have more money. You want Google to take money from Canadians. You hate Canada. And it's like, oh,
look over here, look over here, look over here.
The same thing. Exactly. Dude.
Look over here.
They're all the same. Like, the Liberal Party's just like the Conservative
And then they're going to hammer all the little guys.
Oh, yeah, like us.
And we're going to take it in the hoop.
Do you know who gets fucked by Bill C-18 and C-11? People who are not in ownership of a traditional media asset, radio, television, print. Those people will get fucked the hardest.
And those lobbyists that represent those companies are going to be in. They're going to be in Ottawa, Dean, and they're going to be shutting down anyone they view as potential competition. Totally. And they're going to bury the little guy, because they're not going to be able to get any money out of Google or YouTube. Somebody is going to find a loophole from those international companies, and they're going to take a look at the laws and the rules and regulations. They're going to fight them, and they're going to go,
100%.
Then stop using us.
Yeah,
like Facebook did to Australia.
Well, dude, now it's worse. Like Google, Facebook, they've fired hundreds of thousands of people, these tech companies, over the past year. So they don't have any money. They say they don't. They do. But the temperature's changed. Google tested not delivering news to Canada a month ago. Worked really well. People got really angry. Facebook is going to do the same. Twitter, Elon's not even paying his rent. You think he's going to scratch a check for $400 million to the government of Canada to give to the National Post just for existing?
So what's the bill for?
Crazy.
What's the bill for?
It's so the government doesn't have to subsidize it themselves. It's a bribe, dude. It is a fucking bribe on behalf of the Liberal government to other. And this is why you don't read anything about C11 or C18 in the Star, in the Post, on the news. It's one of the hottest topics online, but no one wants to talk about it in traditional. Do you know why? Because they stand to get hundreds of millions of free dollars for doing nothing. Yeah. So, of course, they're not going to talk about it. But if they do, they talk about it like it's necessary. It is a fucking joke. Media in Canada is a fucking joke. They're all compromised. They're all subsidized, and they all do the work on behalf of the relationship that has a fucking sweaty palm full of our tax dollars to give them. That's the truth. So you can't trust any of them.
But when you got to look at it from the perspective, this is what I tell people that phone me and they're mad that we're running an ad for the NDP. I'm like, we get paid to run that ad. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to support it. They're giving us money. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how we pay our bills, right? Like, let's say a company that sold say a nut product came to you and they had a demand of you, Dean.
Yeah.
You would probably say, all right, how much are we getting?
Okay, we were offered money to advertise for the Liberal Party of Ontario last election cycle.
And you said no?
Yeah.
But I mean, let's say
we've been offered like capital from people who we couldn't suss out, and when we did, we realized that they were just agents on behalf of a lobby group or other people or another country or a political or an ideology.
Whenever but the point I wanted to make was whenever you involve money, there's going to be some ownership. There's always a give and take.
Oh, there's ownership. Second someone gives you money, they own you. You are indebted to them. And they will tell you that. And we've seen it. I've seen it. And it is ugly. And that is how Doug Ford maintains control of the province of Ontario. That is how the political institutions in this country work. That is how dark money works. That is why we have disinformation, which is the biggest issue in this country, which is the biggest, causes more mental maladies, more emotional maladies than anything else in this country. It's disinformation. It's infighting, and it won't stop. And people are being incentivized to do it. And here's the catch. The government's paying for it in this country.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what side you're on. This government for the past over a decade, 12 years, has been paying people to do it. Paying people to do it after they cry poor. You cannot trust the National Post. You can't trust Post Media. You cannot trust Bell. You cannot trust Rogers. You cannot trust Quebecor. You cannot trust Torstar. You cannot trust any news or media organization in this country that takes money from the government and refuses to do certain pieces of work because it might be bad for their business.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you should be getting your news from the locker room.
You probably should. I guess you probably should. And you know what drives me crazy? I'll tell you this. I feel like one of those conspiracy knobs when I'm like, can't trust the media. But you literally can't. It took me years to get to this point of like observing, watching, understanding who gets paid how much, why they get paid. Watching Bill.
That surprises me because you were in this business and you saw how much money.
Yeah, dude. But I hung out with those guys. Like those were the guys. I'm like, get close to those guys because that's where the money is, and they'll keep you employed for a long period of time. They'll keep you happy. They'll give you free stuff. They'll give you money, cars, trips, all that stuff. It's influence. It's all about that. It's all about that. I've been put on private jets for influence. I've been taken across the world for influence. I've been asked to do things for influence. And usually there's an ask. There's always an ask. And I remember some guy gave me cars once. He goes, just never say no to me. And I gave him the car keys back. I'm like, I don't want this car then. Because that's not how I operate. You can give me the car. I'll drive the car. The free car.
And there's so many people out there. I was talking to a salesperson the other day because they came and asked me my opinion about something, and I'm like, I don't know. But I've been in a room with this guy, and I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think if he ever puts a signature on a check, I don't think it's ever gonna clear. And I shouldn't be saying this to you, And she's looking at me like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's just the sense I get. And then somebody else walked in the room who they'll go unnamed, and they overheard the conversation I was having, and they went, oh, no, that guy's slimy as hell. Don't. And they wanted to give us something.
Yeah.
The morning show. And I'm like, no, you keep
Don't
it.
want it.
You
Dude,
keep it.
that
I'm
is...
not going to even tell you what it is, but I mean, I've known this forever from this guy. And it's just. Was it beer? Was it this beer? Ultra right beer? Doesn't matter. Did they come and try and sell this to you? This is a real thing. Ultra right beer in response to the woke beer purge, the woke alcohol purge of 2023, which, by the way, I've thoroughly enjoyed. Like, if there are people out there that are like, this is so sad, these guys are pouring out cases of Bud Light that they've already purchased. I'm like, whoa. There is nothing sad about this. Let them keep pouring. Because of that woke advertisement, inclusive advertisement around Dylan Mulvaney. We kind of touched on it with Max. We had a good laugh. But in response to that, there's always opportunity, right? And there's this dude in the United States who has invented this new beer saying conservatives will no longer complain about big corporations who use our money to indoctrinate our children with their woke garbage. We'll dump them. Seth Weathers, co-founder of Ultra Right Beer. This is, you know what? I have a theory about this beer. You know what I think it is? No.
Garbage?
No, I think he's created a label and he's just covering up Bud Light cans. Because he's selling a 6-pack for $20 US and he starts delivering and I don't think he's making beer. I think this asshole has just created a label for the Bud Light and he's shipping it out. I swear to God.
Ultra Right Beer, 6-pack, $19.99. This is from the website, ultrarightbeer.com. America's been drinking beer from a company that doesn't know which restroom to use. That's why we made Conservative Dad's Ultra Right 100% woke-free American beer. What does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. If you know which restroom to use, you know what beer you should be drinking. Fuck, I hope he got advertising help with this.
He doesn't need to. His little video that he put out is viral.
If you 100% made in America in Northern Illinois, our Airy Special Golden Ale blend is currently in production. Will ship approximately 5/11/23. Only 4 ingredients. Yeah, in every beer, you stupid fucking idiot. You want to see the ad? This is great.
It's Budweiser. It's Budweiser. I bet you it's Bud Light. Guaranteed.
America's been drinking beer from a company that doesn't even know which restroom to use. That's why I created Conservative Dad's Ultra Right 100% woke-free beer. As conservatives, we're constantly getting hit in the face, left and right, by the woke mind virus. But the last place we want it is in our beer. If you know which bathroom to use, you know what beer you should be drinking. Stop giving money to woke corporations that hate our values. And to the rest of you woke corporations, stay the away from our kids.
He's smiling there. He knows he's hit a gold mine. He was drinking in the garage, drinking Bud Light with his buddies, and they came up with this idea.
Slap a label on it, sell it for extra, ship it, and they're like,
"Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, Dean."
If that guy is real,
Bud Light.
Okay, if he,
we went on. You can order it. This shit's real.
Oh, I know. You can only order it in May though. If he is
not
grifting, like if it is a parody, excellent job, tremendous parody, way to whip everybody into a frenzy because all of that was so crazy. It was hard to believe. I don't know what a woke mind virus tastes like, but apparently he's protecting everybody from it. And then at the end of it, and one of the things, the prerequisite is you have to know which bathroom to use. I mean, wow, nothing says this is a great beer like, do you know which bathroom to use? You're allowed to drink it. And the other thing that I got a kick out of at the end, and this is like all guys who groom, I bet you he's a groomer to some extent. Leave our fucking kids alone. What does your new beer have to do with kids? And what did Bud Light's campaign have to do with kids? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
But they've been able to draw a straight line from the trans community to grooming and beer somehow, because that's how fucking dumb and duplicitous and creative these people are. Incredibly creative. You literally have to be the dumbest person on earth to go, that beer looks delicious, after what we just saw. And you literally have to be the dumbest person on the world to go, bet you that beer tastes good because it's not as woke. I mean,
but there is, see, this is where I'm confused by it too, because when I saw the Kid Rock thing, I was like, why would you jump into this? I mean, I realize
he's stupid.
But I'm just saying, it's an opportunity, but is it gonna benefit Kid Rock or hurt? Like, that's what I was looking at.
Well, he knows where his audience is, right? Like, he knows if he caters to his audience, they're all going to buy tickets. Like, that is the most activated group of idiots on the planet. Anybody who's like,
Okay, like, so you think that he did the right thing by doing like
ethically, just the dumbest.
No, not ethically,
but for him,
marketing
financially, for sure, brilliant.
Okay, all
brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, America's not like Canada. Like, America has, like, half of America's like,
we don't care enough. Like,
no, we all laugh at it. Like, when they were having this big fight last week, we did that video, it was a little micro content where we played the video of the guy pouring out his Bud Light and putting Coors Light in. And then we played the graphic of how inclusive Coors Light has been since 1978 without knowing it. He put a gayer beer in his fridge. That has hundreds of thousands of views because I didn't know, but apparently this is a big deal. Like, apparently people are serious about this. That's what I can't understand. In America, they're actually
I haven't been able to figure out how serious they are, because I could not care less. I like Bud Light. I don't care who you market to. I don't care who drinks it.
Did you stop drinking it?
No, fuck no.
Why not?
My fridge is full of Bud Light.
Why not? Don't you?
Because
are you afraid of getting the woke mind virus if you drink it?
That's why I'm wondering. I look at this stuff and I go, like, I looked at the Kid Rock thing and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, do you really care? Like, do you really care if they made a case of beer, like one case, and put this woman's picture on it?
They do.
Who like they do? They actually care. Then that's a problem. And we honestly, and I think we should all just collectively walk into traffic now, ongoing traffic. If that's an issue,
why do you think it's such a huge fucking talking point? Like, these beer videos of people just pouring out beer, hundreds of millions of views over the past week, since Kid Rock shot a couple cases of beer poorly, shot a couple cases of beer and told Anheuser-Busch to go fuck themselves for sending a can of fucking beer with a trans woman's picture on it to the woman celebrating 365 days.
I need to go to bed tonight knowing that that's a small percentage of the population. Huge
percentage of the population in the United States.
Then how are their beer sales not being affected? Because I have heard conflicting reports. Like, they're saying the CEO had to resign, which is not true.
That was all fake news. It was all fake. Snopes did it. Snopes and the guys over at that we worked with. Fuck, what was your name again? Facebook.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Martin Schenk. I can't remember the name of the organization. Anyway, no, they put out a whole bunch of stuff debunking. No, this is all joke, dude. They had this one picture of Jerry Sandusky as the CEO. Like, these people that are sending around the disinformation. CEO of Anheuser-Busch fires entire marketing team, and the picture of the CEO of Anheuser-Busch was Jerry Sandusky, the guy from Penn State who's in jail for child abuse. That guy. And everybody's like, this is unbelievable. And they're sending it around to everybody like it's real. It's Jerry Sandusky in the picture.
He's in jail.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life.
Yeah. So part of it is enough, but part of the anger is very real, is what I'm saying. Very real in America. They're like, we don't want people fucking putting a trans person on our
If you go woke, you'll go broke. I mean, there's no merit to that.
Zero. None.
But you're also saying that this is real.
Fear porn.
That's where I'm confused.
Oh, no.
You're saying
listen,
that
the anger is real. The anger's real. The amount of people that are angry about it, not real. Anything on Twitter looks like it's overwhelming. No.
That's why I'm trying to figure out why Kid Rock would do something that dumb.
Well, because he knows that crazy racists and people who hate gay people will show up to his show and buy more tickets. It's an advertising
If
thing.
that's such a small percentage of the audience, don't you think you're painting yourself into a bit of a corner?
No, he doesn't, because he knows people. He doesn't want woke people. He doesn't want liberals. He doesn't
You understand what I'm saying? Wouldn't you want
I
to
totally
be
understand it, but
more inclusive?
no, it's different. It's like
open
Trump,
yourself
right?
up?
Like, he doesn't care if he's inclusive. He cares that he continues to super serve the crazies and take their money. It's the same thing.
I guess you could compare it to that. You know what? I don't get the United States. Like, I'm constantly asking questions about how they view things from a number of perspectives. We had this conversation the other day. I did not know this to be true, but I've seen it a couple of times now, so I know it's true. And it doesn't happen in every state, and I realize that. Please, I'm not an expert on this. It was in the news, and I was so shocked by it. I'm still, even just saying it out loud is just unbelievable to me. So in Louisville, that guy that went into the bank, the former employee, killed 5 people. And there's actually a couple of people critically still in Louisville.
Yeah, Kentucky.
That court case, when it's done, when it's closed, they take that gun and all guns that were involved in crimes and they auction them off. 20% of it goes back to the coffers of the police force, but they don't destroy those weapons. And I don't know how many states are like that, but it is that way in Kentucky. So this guy's a mass shooter. Somebody will re-own his gun.
Yeah.
That is absolutely,
and it will sell for a lot of money.
Insane to me.
People want to own a gun that a killer used for a mass shooting. People from that community.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
that this happened?
I heard that today. Yeah,
I never knew. Until the other day when I was watching it. Somebody from that, like the mayor or something of Louisville, was on, and he said, and not only that, what makes it worse, that gun will get sold, and I'm being forced to its law, and I have been trying to change this law, and I can't change this. To me, it's indefensible. You cannot defend that. There's no way that makes sense. I don't care whose math. I don't care whether you're a gun guy or not a gun guy. I don't care if you have 4 functioning brain cells or you're the smartest guy in the world. No one will ever be able to defend that law. To me, it is completely asinine. And when there's something that disturbing that is true, it just
makes you question the entire country. Yeah. To your
point, is so fucked.
The gun that was used to kill at least 5 people, wounded several others in Louisville at a bank. He's going to end up in someone else's hands due to a state law that requires law enforcement to turn over confiscated guns to the Kentucky State Police for auction rather than destroy them. The Louisville mayor called the Kentucky law, quote, outrageous. Yeah.
But you've lost control of your society if you can't find a way to actually fix something like that. Like, take the gun issue out of it. I know there's lots of sides, and anytime I ever get involved in a conversation about guns and religion, it's not fair because I don't know enough about it. But you will never defend that to me. And when you look at that, and that is a law in a place that you live, there is no hope for mankind. Like, we might as well all just quit. That gun killed 5 people. Somebody will own that gun again. If you can't understand how wrong that is, I'm sorry. It's over. The rest of the conversations they're done.
Well, it's I don't know if you know this. America has problems, man. You know, in 2023, those problems are
I'm going to stop
exacerbated
bitching
by
about
the
bike
fact,
lanes.
Yeah,
I swear.
Probably a good idea because you don't have to fucking strap one on when you go to the grocery store. Right? You don't. And you don't have millions of guns circulating in this country for all the things that this country is and is not because of the political institutions and the media in this country. We are an excellent country that has excellent rules.
I need a reminder of that every once in a while.
That promote a long and healthy life for people. That's what Canada's all about. And when we get into these pissing matches about guns, I immediately discount the person's opinion. When they say guns don't kill people, people kill people. I'm like, yeah, you're not
It's
even
over.
worth the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Or when they're like, yeah, I mean, come take my guns. I'm like, you're not even worth the conversation.
No.
It doesn't matter because those people do not matter. They do not understand what is good for the Republic.
Rifle, you idiot. Okay. Okay. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, but the fact doesn't change that only a pussy needs a gun. Right?
You don't need one. You will never need
if you're unless you're hunting. Like if you're a hunter, great, love it, awesome.
Good with an AR-15.
No, like handguns and assault rifles and clips. If you own one of those, the only reason why you own it is because you're a coward and you're a pussy. That's why. You can say it's for target shooting. You can say all those things. It's not. There's no one out there who goes, I can't wait to spend the weekend target shooting. Nobody does. Nobody says that. You can't wait to brush up on your skills so that you can be considered a dangerous person with a weapon. And if you take that weapon out of your hands, you're just a person. And that drives those people crazy. They don't want to be just people. They want to feel powerful. That's why everybody.
I grew up in a house where we needed to hunt. Like we would not have had meat. We would not have had protein in the freezer if we didn't hunt. We were not well off. I was brought up quite poor. And so I've always struggled with the gun conversation because I know that there are families out there that live, outside of major cities. And now that I make enough money that I can feed my family without going out and shooting it, I don't have a gun. I have a collector's gun that my grandfather left me, and it's locked up and you can't shoot the damn thing. But I don't own a gun. And I'm thankful for that because I hated hunting. I was just not a good thing. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to kill another living thing.
Yeah, and they got no problem doing it in the United States. Gun violence is the number one cause of death for people under the age of 18. Did you know that? Had a car accident, had a cancer, had anything like that. Gun violence. There you go.
If you live in the United States, I saw this too. 25% of the population has a family member that has been victim of
1 in 5.
1 in 5 of gun violence. Not directly, not shot, not killed, but has been in a room where a mass shooter came in, or there was a shootout in a shopping mall, or they were in there. They were a victim of seeing something. 1 in 5. I'm like, things might be out of hand down there, eh? Like, when 25% of your population, then that's family,
dude.
That's
the only time I've ever had a gun pointed at me was like 3 weeks ago in Arizona.
Yeah, and I know you were rattled by that.
Oh, dude, so stressful having a gun pointed at you.
Yeah,
when you don't know what's on the other side of that gun or if it's real. And you're in the United States where it's like, yeah, that guy can just shoot anybody they want as soon as they step on his lawn. It's allowed. Very different world. Anyway, appreciate you being here. Thanks. Locked Cross 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton is where you can find him at Locked Cross on Twitter every single weekday morning. Listen to 957cruisefm.ca. Stream live. Best rock and roll morning show in the country. Don't stay angry. Stay happy. Good to see you. Talk to you soon. Locked Cross, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, hoping to have Jack Michaels on tomorrow. Play-by-play for the Edmonton Oilers. And then, speaking of which, the playoffs start next week. The regular season wraps up this weekend in the NHL. Rachel Dory, who's an incredible hockey mind, spitfire of an individual, smart young lady. She's going to join us to break down the playoff picture. We're going to talk about the Leafs. We're going to talk about the Oilers. Talk about Canada's teams. We'll talk about who qualified, who didn't. Talk about what she expects from Boston. Really excited to have her on. Thanks to Max Foster for joining us today. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow around 4 o'clock. Have a wonderful day. I want to thank our partners and friends who make this possible, specifically our friends at Cantork. My friend Colin Livingston, maybe the best guy I've ever met. He might be the greatest G on the planet. He also manufactures some of the world's best industrial tools, specifically torque wrenches that are hardworking, rugged, and made for your service in your industry. They have the best in sales, rentals, calibration, maintenance, custom fabrication of industrial torque tools, loosening, fastening, no matter the scale of your bolting project. Cantork is your group. Colin Livingston's your guy. And you want to feel proud about buying a torque wrench? in Canada. Everything they make is Canadian owned and operated. All the manufacturing in Edmonton, Alberta. Proud Canadians that want to help the economy and proud Canadians who want to employ Canadians. So deal with CanTorque. If you're looking for a hardworking torque wrench, Canada's leading industrial tool experts will offer you the very best. They have it all. If you need a loosening or fastening solution in railroad, heavy equipment, mining, nuclear, sheet metal, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. These guys have and will make anything you need from start to finish. They'll take care of it. They'll teach you how to use it. Brilliant. Engineers, manufacturing, Canadian-made company. Go to cantorque.com today. Thanks to Ed's Fine Imports. He makes Gitch. We're brought to you by Gitch, engineered for any level of performance as well as everyday life. Buy 3, get 1 free. Use promo code Gitch3 at checkout. Designed for you so you can walk, run, or sprint. And for every application, super soft, very breathable, barely there comfort, keeping you cool. You'll never want to take these things off. Go to edsfineimports.com. Order today. We wear them. You should wear them all the time, too. We give them out as gifts. But they are literally the best underwear on the market. Gentlemen, trust me, if you buy a pair, you don't like them, send them back. You'll still have to pay for them, but send them back. You won't. You'll never send these back. They're the best underwear in the world. Gitch, engineered for any level of performance as well as everyday life. Go to edsfineimports.com. Order 3, and you'll get another one for free when you use promo code Gitch3 at checkout. And looking for a lawyer? Huh? You in trouble? Do something you shouldn't have done? Maybe you did something and someone's accusing you of doing something you didn't do. Doesn't matter. What you need is a great lawyer. Kivlaw Defense Lawyers. Go to kivlaw.ca if you're in Southern Ontario. Kivlaw Defense Lawyers are top criminal defense lawyers. Located in St. Catharines, but they do anything that needs to be done for you in terms of getting you out of trouble in Southern Ontario. St. Catharines criminal lawyers focus exclusively on criminal law. You want to get your life back. You want someone to help you 24/7. Hey, it's stressful getting charged with things or getting in trouble with the law. Not that I would know. Never been charged. Never been in trouble with the law. Proud to say. But when you got a legal matter and you're staring down the barrel of it, you need someone to hold your hand through it. Trust me, Rob's your guy. Email Rob today, Robert at kivlaw.ca, or go to kivlaw.ca to speak to a lawyer today. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you being here. See you tomorrow on this very program. Hopefully, Jack Michaels will be joining us, who's play-by-play for the Edmonton Oilers, so we can set up a little playoff action. Talk about that. Talk about DeMar DeRozan's daughter. We'll get to that tomorrow as well. Man, I've never been so pissed off by a 9-year-old in my life. Anyway, we'll do that tomorrow. Have a great day. See you at 4 o'clock. Bye.